Hey guys, how's it going? Jay Sensational here. Welcome back to the channel. So for today, we have gotten the official release video for Aatrox out with the Runeterra set coming up. If you guys saw yesterday, a bunch of content creators put out videos with just the whole set review because the whole set was essentially put out because a lot of the world because the world competitors got access to the early expansion. And I did do a set review video that will be coming out at the end of all this, but I thought that I would do sort of the same sort of thing where I have a video for each champion as it sort of comes with the set with like the reveal videos, because you actually get to see an action and things like that. So without further ado, let's jump into it. The first champion we have here is Aatrox.
I remember this place and the endless blood.
So Aatrox himself is the conclusion to the Darkin series. He is a 6-mana 5/5 with the Darkin blade, and his origin allows him to put any non-champion Darkin into your deck. So this is essentially any of the 10 Darkin weapons, or is it 9? And 10, I believe, 10 Darkin weapons. And of course, once you play or summon 3 Darkins, you get to draw Aatrox. So very similar again to how Varus and Kayn work, but very notably, you cannot put in any of the cultist cards with this origin. So that's something to keep in mind.
They cast us to the corners of the world. We used weapons of war, then became them. Not even
Wait.
realms could divide us, old friend.
Oh, okay. Aatrox.
War is no place for cowards.
Hey there, Aatrox. This is something that's like super cool with Aatrox. So when Aatrox on summon, he gets this card, and if you cast this card, he levels up. I'm trying to think if there's any champion that's sort of like that. I feel like there is. My brain just isn't working right now. Oh, sorry. But this is like his like button, right? He presses the button and he levels up. And this is the first thing. They released a keyword for this, which is interesting because I think that they're going to expand on this keyword. But anyways, assimilate, World Ender rather, 13 mana, slow speed card. Reduce my cost by 1 for each time an equipped or darkened ally has struck this game. You saw earlier how Aatrox's spell allows him to strike 3 times. Aatrox himself also has regen. So this discounts every time, you have an equipped ally strike. You can play all of your darkened weapons in one deck if you want to. And you can discount this, right? Now you can only get this in hand when you do summon Aatrox. So there is, an earliest turn that you can play this essentially, but if you do play it, not only do you level up Aatrox, all of your allies with equipped Darkins turn into their Darkin forms, which I think is super cool. If they are champions, they level up. Okay, so Kayn or Varus will level up, which is, I think, a lot less significant than, the Darkin weapons turning into the Darkins themselves, but hey.
All must end. I am doomed.
That's hype. That's pretty cool. It's very simple, but this one definitely looks a lot better than Varus and Kayn. Or at least I think. And then of course the classic wings, the World Ender wings in his League ult. Pretty cool. And then pow, he becomes a 9/9 with Overwhelm. Darkin allies cost 5 less. So essentially this is turning into some like pseudo Nautilus kind of ability. I forgot to mention that on strike and summon he always heals your nexus by 2. So he doesn't heal himself most notably, so it's not exactly like the Kayn version of Aatrox. But he has this like cool thing where Darkin allies cost 5 less. And your simulated guys turn into Darkins, right?
We were never fated to bow.
Is there an animation?
No, Pantheon. You were fated
Wait, was there an animation when they assimilated? Hang on.
No panic. We were never fated to bow.
I don't know if there just wasn't an animation or they just like cut past it, but I would be very disappointed if that world ender assimilation doesn't have this epic animation.
Pantheon, you were fated to die. Destroy everything. Pray.
Oh,
Apocalypse comes. Yes, oblivion.
okay. I mean, it looks cool, right? It's very cool. The only notable thing, I guess, out of this is the fact that Aatrox himself costs 6. He's a 6 over him, but World Ender is something realistic you can play on like turn 8 or something like that. And you kind of need some setup, right? If you don't have any allies equipped with Darkin weapons on board already, your payoff is not super huge, especially if they just like kill Aatrox. So you do need some setup here, but if you do have a setup, it's really good, right? Because you're essentially cheating out a lot of mana. And of course, the Darkins themselves are just inherently very powerful, right? They're these 6 drops, these 8 drops, and have some pretty powerful effects by their own. The only downside I see right now is simply the fact that you can't play the cultist cards, which is a lot of the payoff for playing a lot of these equipment cards, right? Like Momentous Choice, Unforgiving Cold, the Draw 2 spell, even like the Spell Shield card, right? And not having access to those means that, you know, if you do want to have access to those, you limit your second region, right? You're forced to play a Varus deck or a Kane deck. His champion spell is this sweep, is his Q basically. He gets 3 strikes. Each one is, it doesn't show, but these are fleeting. And it is reduced in cost each time, right? So it goes from 3 to 2 to 1. 3 strikes for World Ender. It is specifically only Aatrox, and Aatrox only has 6 health, but it does have regen. So it's unlikely to get full value out of all 3 strikes. But if you have some synergy, like maybe you're playing like Troll Chan or some like health boosting stats or whatever, you know, you can pay the price, right? Especially because you have regen. They do tease the Freljord Darkin here, which is Darkin Spear. It's 0-2 equipment, attack, grant the top 2 allies in your deck +1/+1. So essentially you have this Omen Hawk-esque kind of weapon, and then you may spend 8 mana to play as the Darkin. Let me move my face for a second. So the Darkin is from attack from the top 6 cards of your deck, summon an attacking follower or non-champion Darkin. So you saw in the video when the Freljord Darkin attacked here, you know, he essentially brought out another, you know, the Darkin ally, and then this put out another ally. So there are some very like high roll situations, but overall just a very fantastic Darkin ability, I guess. It's in tune with what Freljord does, and you know, this ability to like cheat out followers or attacking followers is, you know, quite okay, right? Overall, I think it's cool. I think Aatrox himself is slightly weak. He doesn't scale by himself. You know, he's stuck as a 6/6. It's not like Kane or Varus who have weapons that grow. He doesn't have quick attack. So he's kind of forced to sit on this regen thing. And that's not like the most reliable if you don't have either Aatrox or, you know, the similar equipped weapons on board. His World Ender payoff isn't super fantastic. And he's very slow, right? Like you play him on turn 6 maybe. You have to discount this, and then it's playable on turn 8, and then hopefully you have a board state that like helps you win the game, or like hopefully Aatrox sticks. And depending on how much you play this for, and depending on how much you can discount this, means how much mana you have for the rest of your turn for like protection tools, for interaction, things like that. So overall, this is like a little bit slow. The concept is super cool. Like this whole thing is really interesting. I don't really know like if this is what Aatrox can do with Darkins lore wise or anything like that. Can you like bring out the Darkins from the weapons? I don't know. But Yeah, it's cool. We don't really see this kind of card outside of Nautilus, so it's really cool that they're kind of like leaning towards this like sort of engine-esque kind of card that has these like very major discounts, because it is really cool to get to play like the Darkins for very cheap, right? I will say that you can play Altar of Blood to like discount Aatrox, I believe, or is Altar of Blood only follower Darkins? Hang on, this is important. Altar of Blood. Okay, so hypothetically, if you played this in Shrima, you could discount your, like Aatrox even further with Altar of Blood and potentially get him out earlier. And if, you get like a turn 4 Aatrox, like a 6/6 region at that point is actually pretty good. And then Aatrox helped you discount your World Ender faster. Now, of course, you are in Shrima, you're not going to have very easy ways of slaying units. So that's like an obvious downside to it. I think his origin's a little bit lacking, honestly. I'm surprised you couldn't play the cultist cards, but then again, if you could play the cultist cards, I think that might be too good. So you have to choose, right? You have to choose if you want to pair him with the cultist region, because that's like very powerful with the equip cards, or if to choose with the second region and lock yourself to specifically only the Darkin weapons as like your deck building option, which isn't like terrible by itself, but the weapons themselves, all your units are coming from this one region that you're pairing it with, right? And that's something like heavily to consider when you're approaching, how to build Aatrox as a champion and as a deck, because because Aatrox himself comes with no units, right, apart from the Darkins. And outside of that, you're forced to play, and like really, you want to have units equipping the Darkin weapons and not just playing out Darkin weapons themselves, right? Because of World Ender. So you need to have at least reliable early units to sort of help you stabilize your game plan, right? Even if you're all in on Aatrox. I think he's quite interesting. I think his base form's a little bit weak, but obviously has a huge payoff when he's leveled up. This Assimilate Allies is super sick, but does require some setup and is obviously quite expensive. This can get denied. Could this be burst? Like, this being able to get denied feels so bad, eh? Especially because now Bandle City is getting a deny card. Not that you guys have seen yet, unless you guys seen the revealers. But Bandle City has deny, Ionia has deny, Shrima has deny. If this card gets denied, you just cry. Heavy amounts of tears. Oh no. And there's no specific deny in whatever region you're playing, especially if you play this out, you have to if you are playing deny and you need to like have this plus deny mana up, that's super expensive as well. I forgot about that. I feel like this should be burst. Well, I mean, it probably can't be burst because of this assimilate allies thing. If you just like burst out your assimilations and just open attack, that could be kind of strong. But man, does it suck that this card can get denied. And then the only way to get another one is if you summon Aatrox Scatter Strike. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Whew. But yeah, Aatrox, like, he looks cool. He has like really powerful effect things, but again, does require some setup. Being able to play like all the Darkins in your deck, they're okay. That's like okay, right? Like the strength of the Darkin weapons themselves aren't inherently like their equipped like potential. Or at least like their equipped potential is a lot more synergistic for the specific decks that they're in, right? For example, like Lodestone in like these elusive aggro decks, very highly synergistic. The sort of Bloodletter is very highly synergistic with Auction, very highly synergistic with the overall Slay archetype concepts. Even like the Demacia one, right? Very highly synergistic with challengers, cards like Broadwing, right? And a lot of these Darkin weapons are very reliant on the followers from the specific regions. Now you got to play, any Darkin weapon in a deck, but you're only locked to units and followers from one region, right? So now the synergy between the weapons as well as the units, now you have some like cool region combinations, right? You can play like the You could play like the Freljord weapon to give +2 to like a Petricide Broodwing or something. I don't know, right? You do get to mix and match a little bit more, but locking yourself to, or like I feel like a lot of the strength from the dark weapons comes from the synergy with its overall game plan, apart from being able to play the Darkin as Darkin form itself, right? And I think that's something that, you know, inherently is slightly weaker in this sort of Aatrox deck, where you can just play any Darkin in it, or like any Darkin weapon, but you're locking yourself to reach cards from one region, right? And I don't know if there's exactly that coherent synergy with all the Darkin weapons within one region, right? That's something to think about. But it's really cool if you can pull it off. I just think it's really hard. So I think, I don't know if this is super powerful. I think off the bat, cards like Vayne and Seraphine are just are a lot stronger than what this looks like. But you know, I want to have high hopes because it looks really cool. But that's gonna wrap it here. We're gonna do a much deeper set review, and where I'll give ratings to each and every one of these cards at the very end after we have all the reveal videos and right before the expansion. So look out for that video as well. But this is the end for Aatrox. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.